Kev, to kick this one to you, did Cooper Kupp cap off the greatest wide receiving season in NFL history after winning the Super Bowl MVP this past weekend?
So, guys, that's a loaded question. For everybody that's going to give us all the shit in the comments, there was an extra game this season. Kyle and I are fully aware. We're talking about point blank the numbers that he ended with this season, the accolades he achieved, and then, of course, capping it off with a Super Bowl MVP, which, quite frankly, a lot of the greatest receivers of all time that exclude, of course, Jerry Rice and all of those famous people, they don't even get to this point in their careers. They don't get to hoist the Lombardi trophy. They don't get to hoist the Super Bowl MVP award as well. So, let's just look at the season as a whole. The regular season, Cooper Kupp ended 2021 with 1947, 1,947 total yards. He had 145 receptions and 16 touchdowns. That is what they call in the NFL a triple crown. He led all three statistical categories for wide receivers sparring along the the NFL. He also led the NFL in yards per game in 114.5. So, quite frankly, when you talk about one of the best seasons, it is there. I don't know about the best because that extra game was a part of it, but because he led in every single category, I would say that he's definitely up there for it. Now, he also had 191 targets. That's not the most in the NFL, but again, almost 200 fucking targets is ridiculous. He was a Pro Bowl starting wide receiver, first team All Pro, 2021 Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then now Super Bowl MVP. Is there really anything that you can say here like that is going to exclude him from being able to output this much success? Is there really anything that you can say to counteract that, honestly? Because he is actually doing everything he needed to do. And if anything, his performance in Super Bowl 56 solidified that for me because Odell went out, Matt Stafford was struggling, and in that final drive to take the lead, Cooper Kupp was targeted 4 times for 39 yards, the game-winning touchdown, and he also had a key pivotal fourth down conversion for 7 yards on a on a rushing attempt for a motion sweep. So, what does he not do? He's also a great blocking wide receiver. He's a great teammate, and he plays pretty much all over the field, out of the backfield, in the slot. He can play wide. Obviously, he plays majority in the slot, but overall, Cooper Kupp was able to do it all season long at a consistent clip, very successful. And when you win a triple crown, Super Bowl MVP, and every other accolade you can aside from an MVP, that's got to be somewhere in a top 2, top 3 kind of statistical season that a wide receiver could have. I know he didn't break Megatron's single season record, and he didn't do it in 16 games. But when you look at everything else that the man did, I can't say that it is the best receiver season, but in terms of all time, top 3, hands down.
There's been many great wide receiver seasons that we've seen in NFL history. The one that really kind of stands out to me was, I think it was like in Jerry Rice's like 3rd or 4th year in the league. He had 22 touchdowns in 12 games. Granted, he only had like 60, 65 catches and maybe like a touch over like 1,000 yards. But like that type of output in such a short period of time is out fucking standing. And when you look at Cooper Kupp this year, Cooper Kupp was phenomenal from beginning to end. And it really kind of goes to show that, look at the situation that Cooper was dealt with last year. Jared Goff. Now, granted, Jared Goff did go to 1 Super Bowl, but really Jared Goff wasn't the driving force of the reason why the Rams went to the Super Bowl when they played the Patriots in Super Bowl 53. You replace him with Matt Stafford, and look at the difference. Cooper Kupp is now regarded as one of the best wide receivers in the game. And to me, Cooper Kupp was already on that type of ascension of being one of the better receivers in the league. But after this season and having Matt Stafford at the helm throwing him the football, you could arguably say that Cooper Kupp is the best wide receiver in the game as far as just overall production goes. I mean, he doesn't necessarily have like the most athletic skill set that we've seen at the wide receiver position. There's some other guys like DeAndre Hopkins. We've seen guys like Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss, where their athletic skill is more superior than Cooper Kupp. But where Cooper Kupp makes the magic happen is his route running is impeccable. He's able to catch the ball in traffic, and he's able to make plays happen in the most critical moments of the game. And Kevin, it's like you said, the guy was great from beginning to end this season. And really, the achievements for this year in regards to him stand out in particular. Unanimous All Pro. He won the NFL receiving triple crown as far as catches, yards, and touchdowns go. He had 33 postseason catches, which is the most in NFL history, if I'm not wrong in that regard. Won NFL Offensive Player of the Year, like you mentioned. And in the Super Bowl, was the main driving force offensively for the Rams and came up with the biggest touchdown, which was the game-winning touchdown at the end of the fourth quarter. I mean, Cooper Kupp really deserves to be in that rare air as far as like the best wide receivers in the game currently. Now, as far as all time, I can't really put him as like, oh, he's like one of like the top 5 greatest wide receivers of all time. He's nowhere near that yet. But for this season and this season alone, to me, he had one of the greatest wide receiver seasons in NFL history. For me to say he had this single-handedly the greatest one of all time, that's a bridge a little bit too far for me. I still look at like what Randy Moss did in 2007 with the Patriots, where the guy was unstoppable. And it wasn't just what he was doing, it was how he was doing it. 23 touchdowns. I think he had 24 total touchdowns with the one touchdown that he had in the Super Bowl and Super Bowl 42 that year. I still look at that season that Randy Moss had as it was just more impressive than what Cooper Kupp did. But dude, the numbers don't lie. Cooper probably had the most productive wide receiver season that I've ever seen. And that's got to count for something. And I got to give tip of the cap to the guy. The guy was a great receiver for the Rams this year. He will continue to be that. And as long as Matt Stafford is throwing him the ball, this guy is going to produce at an unbelievable clip. And I have no doubt in my mind, as long as he stays healthy, he could put up very similar numbers next year compared to what he did this year.